One day, while in a rush to get ready to visit Decay, he ran to the bathroom, and to his surprise, he found towels with feces mixed with blood. Upon looking at it, he ran to the toilet and lifted the seat. There were feces mixed with blood in there as well. Just then, Decay blows her horn. He runs outside and vomits on the side of her car. He waited for a few seconds and entered her car. "Are you all right?" she asked. "No, but I gotta get out of that house, as soon as possible, because he's just a madman." Decay asked, "What did Ron do?" "He's a sweet person," Dasinga said. "Yes, he is, but his sexual activities disturb me. He's a whole hoe." Decay laughed, "Not half a hoe, but a whole hoe? Hell, you could have stayed with me when you first moved in with him." Dasinga said, "I didn't want to rush, but if it's alright with you, I want to move in tomorrow, while you're off." Decay smiled, "No problem. Now, let's go and enjoy the rest of the evening and get your mind off that stuff. Got a taste for some buffalo wings?" Dasinga smiled back, "Do shit stink?" She laughed, "Not mine." Dasinga looked at her, "Shid." "Oh, okay," and she drove off. The following day Decay called Dasinga, "I have to work this weekend, they just called me in, so you have to find another way to get your stuff to my apartment." Afterward, he spoke to Ron about his situation, and Rod made a few calls. "Hi, Dasinga," Ron said. "I got a friend who's a mechanic, and this guy owes him some money for fixing his truck and hasn't paid as of yet. Here's the key, and you have to return it before Monday," Dasinga said. "Hell, it's Wednesday, and all I got is a bunch of clothes and a few books. Ain't no way I won't be finished by Monday." He drove a load over to Decay's apartment before she went to work and got a copy of the apartment key. He made dinner and cleaned up the apartment, while she was at work. He told himself he'd made another load the following day because he only had a few small things left and took a break. Until that Friday night. Trying to avoid that Friday night traffic, he took the back roads, where he ran straight into a checkpoint. "License and registration please?" the officer said. "Well, sir, I don't have a license, and the vehicle is a loaner from a friend." The officer went to his vehicle, got on the police cruiser computer, and returned after 5 minutes. "Sir, you are under arrest. Not only do you not have your license, but this vehicle has also been reported stolen." Dasinga knew he would go to jail for not having a license, but he was in shock when the officer said the truck was stolen. Dasinga felt hopeless, because he was miles from home, and a stolen vehicle sounded like a lot of time to serve in jail. He stayed in jail over the weekend, but out of surprise, he heard an officer call his name, and he started out processing him that Monday night. He walked to the exit, and Decay was right there. She had called Ron frantically, thinking he was over at his house. Ron and Decay worked together, and found out he was in jail. They had run around all day trying to do what was necessary to get him out of there. Mammalean looked at Cush, "Child, this sun felt good at first, but not no mo. Let's get out of this sun and find some shade." As they moved their chairs into the shade, Mammalean continued, "Dasinga was released from jail, but it was late, after Decay posted bail and waited for his release." Dasinga looked at her and couldn't believe it. "Ron?" She shook her head and smiled, "Ron." Dasinga embraced her so hard her back popped. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, but you always surprise me with your love for me, and I'm truly grateful." She was already late, so she gave him bus fare and rushed to work. It took him a week to escape the shock of being in jail, but it reminded him of being in the army. Still unemployed, he finally landed a job just around the corner from Decay's apartment complex as a short-order cook. Mammalean paused, "I need to stop here for a minute because this was a time in our history when computers, well, not just computers, but technology started to creep into our lives. Our black, Wakatilians women started to creep past our men in society. Before you knew it, things got out of hand. Don't get me wrong, it was always like this after the so-called women's movement, but the movement were for the white women and our women got caught up in it. The division of our family unit slowly became null and void. A popular word grew until there was an outbreak. That word was single mother. Now there has always been single mother, but mostly because of death in the family and they were married, widows. But these independent women started party, drinking, laying down with any man who could satisfy their monetary needs and able to buy them a drink or two. Hell, you were in luck if they went and got you your own special bottle of that expensive stuff. Because they had said they didn't need a man, until it came to sex. What they really were saying was, why settle for one man when I can have any one of them? Imagine having 8 kids by 8 different men. One of these men might care about their child and come by and do for his child, and the rest didn't. But what about the other kids seeing this? What would they do? How would they feel? Animosity became hatred for your own kin. Different children reacted differently to the situation, but chaos began to brew. By the 1990s, all hell started to break loose. You see, during Decay and Dasinga's time, around 1992, Wakatilian men, well, those who could see, started seeing themselves get left behind their women economically. Wakatilian men began to think a certain way because they didn't have money, and their women did. Our men were miserable, disappointed, and dissatisfied even to be around. Crack cocaine played its part, and this was part 2 of that, destroy the Wakatilian men, pandemic. You see, men associated their worth with money in a relationship, and when they didn't have that, some of our women started looking down on that, and a whirlwind of destruction came for our people. For years later, when Dasinga went to a Wakatilian college, he noticed that 80% of the college were women, while 18% were men and the rest were other ethnicities. Most women graduated, but out of the Wakatilian men, only 8% graduated, and Decay already had a college degree when they met. Many of them didn't know what had happened until it was too late. Psychological warfare at its best. Okay, that's enough of that, we'll talk more about that later. I just had to say that before I got to the next part, so you'll understand why things happen next.